This is Evolutionary Radio. This is your host, Trevor Kouritzin. As always, I have my co-host, Steve Smee, joining me.
Good afternoon, guys. We have another fantastic guest. Trevor, introduce the gentleman.
Joining us today is Chris Aceto, also known as the Real Technician.
Hey, Trevor. Where are you, Trevor?
I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
What's that, in France?
Canada.
I know. I've been there. I went to the Canadian Nationals. It's so flat, right? I looked out the window and I've never seen anything so flat.
You helped Ron Partlow finally win his pro card after 8 years.
Beta Buddha, I would say the thing that he ever saw flatter was Ramy, when I prepped Ramy and helped him in the prejudging of the Olympia when he was fourth a couple years ago.
Flat.
He would say that Winnipeg is not as flat as Ramy was.
So my first question for you, Aceto, is where did the name Real Technician
Came
come
from Troy Alves. Because we were doing I helped Troy Alves. I think he's got like 5 or 6 pro wins. And he was winning pro shows before the 212 class. And he was like, he was winning shows at 39, 40, 41. And Troy knows my unorthodox approach to contest prep. And he can appreciate it, because he's lived it. So we were at some type of show, and they had ESPN had a boxing program on, and they had Floyd Mayweather's father on, and Floyd Mayweather's father kept on harping on the word technical, technical, technical. Everything's technical, and Troy finally said, "I'm going to call you the technician." And I said, I loved it, and I said, I'm keeping it.
And it stuck.
It stuck because it's really a parody, because it sounds like a pompous way. It's like above guru and it's above like PhD. It's just not above, but it's like a parody of those. It's like above that and arrogance, really. So that's where it came from, the technician.
So my first question for you, Chris, is you've been in this industry a long time. I mean, you've worked with the best. You've been a bodybuilder yourself. Where did this love for bodybuilding come from? Were you maybe like a fat kid growing up? Were you maybe like a skinny kid? Where did this all start for you?
Like everyone else, I saw bodybuilding contests, and just you either like it or you don't. And if you like it, you either love it or you like it. And there's different levels of love, and I just loved it like crazy from the beginning. And I was probably like 15 years old, 14, 15 years old. And I just jumped into it like full throttle at like 15. Just, that's what I was going to do. I was going to bodybuild. But, oddly enough, I never ever had an aspiration of being like a professional bodybuilder or having any profession related to it. I just wanted to, that was my hobby. Kids, I have kids. One just went out the door here, 14 years old, and they don't have, they have hobbies, sports, whatever, but they don't have anything comparable. I always tell them, you don't have something that you're really passionate about yet, that like to the level of, think about it 24/7. That's my personality too. When I'm into something, I think about it 24/7. It's good, right? Because you become good at it, but it's bad because, obsessions crowd out everything else.
So, Chris, you're considered a guru in the industry.
Technician, but go ahead.
Okay, technician. When did you start really like noticing, wow, I have a gift for this? And you started actually making money in it? Because we have a lot of guys, like they get in. I kind of fell into this industry by accident, and I actually make a decent living in it, believe it or not. Even though I'm probably an idiot compared to you, but I'm just kidding. So how did you, when was it when you started? Did you go to college and then graduate, or did you do something in college to kind of network, to kind of break into the industry?
I went to college for applied exercise science. And then during the summer, when I was like 18, 19, 20, I went to there used to be this bodybuilding camp in Los Angeles. And the owner of the camp is now a big time Hollywood producer. He sold it eventually to Joe Weider, but when he hired me, bizarrely, it was bizarre. He hired me to work at this bodybuilding camp in the summertime. And like, I'd go out to Los Angeles and like Lee Haney would come out, and Bev Francis, and Mike Quinn, and Mike Christian, and Rich Kaspari, Gary Stridham, all these people would come out and instruct like hundreds of other people about training and nutrition. And I realized like the day I got there, it's like, not the day that I got there, but when I got there right away, I knew that I was already doing stuff that was just way more, not complex, probably more simple than the pros were doing. I just had a better understanding, I thought. And I would just spend like the whole summer, people would like come to pay all this money to come to this camp, and then they'd listen to like top bodybuilder XYZ, and they'd say, well, I didn't really get anything out of it. And then the people who ran the camp said, well, Chris knows a lot about nutrition, it seems. Why don't you go sit down with him? And so I would like write up diets for people, and I would have my own little subclasses of, what I was, what I thought, like, how to put together a diet to build muscle and get lean. And then once I graduated from college, I did that camp. And then I was like broke one day, and I was in the Gold's Gym parking lot, and Ed Connors, who owned Gold's Gym at the time, came up to me. And I was literally thinking, oh gosh, what am I going to do for my next, I have like $500 left. And he said, how would you like to manage a gym for me? I didn't even know what Ed Connors looked like. He's a big name at the time. He owned all the Gold's Gyms in the US. And he said, you want to manage a gym for me in like 3 hours away in the desert? And it was like good money. And I said, no, I don't want to go into the desert. I want to be here in like Venice, because just, nicer area. And he said, well, how about this? Why don't you take an office next to my office for free? Thanks, Ed. For 100% free. And you can have a secretary. You can use my secretary. All I need from you is like because he'd fly everyone out from all over the world, and it'd say, if I have a bodybuilder you want, that I like, and they need help for a show, if you can help them get ready for a show, I'll let you have free rent like indefinitely. And so he started sending people my way, and of course they looked great. The people who I was working with, complimentary on his behalf. And then I started like doing diets for people in Gold's Gym. I had open reign to like Gold's Gym. They had 10,000 members at the time. And I just had a little sign out front, like right when you come into Gold's Gym, nobody was doing that at all. No one. The level of competition was zero. And there was a little sign that said, you want to get with Chris Aceto, help with like losing weight. Most of it was like losing weight,
How old were you at that time?
21.
Wow. That's awesome. Okay.
And just money started pouring in like immediately. I mean, it was ridiculous. I was so busy. And then, so I had access to like people, good bodybuilders out there. And, there was only the magazines at the time. So, unbeknownst to me, people would, just find out kind of like what I was doing out there, and kind of like, they come out to Gold's and, what are you doing? Well, this guy, Chris, has an office here. And then from there, my ex-roommate at this bodybuilding camp became the editor of Muscle and Fitness and said, would you like to write nutrition articles? And I said, I don't know how to write, and they said, well, just try it. And so I tried it, and Joe Weider himself called me up probably 2 weeks later, said, I love this article. Why don't you start writing articles for me? So I was doing the diets on one hand at 21. I've been talking to Joe on the other, on the telephone, one day a month about, writing for Muscle and Fitness and Flex.
Fast forward to today. Do you still have that same passion for bodybuilding?
No.
No, you don't?
For me, bodybuilding, no, but I'm pretty passionate about like people I help. I mean, I was just in Tampa for helping Sergio Oliva and a couple of Sergio Oliva, Jason Lowe, who got third in the classic, Henry Pierre Eno, who won the classic, Sergio was second, and who else did I have in that show? Matt Kuba, who this is his first year as a pro. I think he was 11th or so. But I mean, they would attest to you that, I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, that I'm passionate about like, helping people when I'm into it,
So you've worked with some of the best. I mean, you've worked with Jay Cutler, you've worked with Sean Rowan, you've worked with Big Ramy. How do you not psych yourself out? Are you just confident in your abilities, or do you kind of just like pretend?
I have tons of patience, and I love pressure, and there's pressure makes people crumble. It makes me be able to relax and concentrate on what I'm trying to do. I will honestly say that, I'll give you an example. Sergio Oliva, he got second in Chicago. He went out and ate a full entire week. Like, I mean, just no training, just living in Chicago, eating deep dish pizza for a week. And I called him up and I said, I think you should do the show in 14 days. And he disagreed. And I told him, I think you should do it. I think it's a mistake. He didn't look good. He went down to Tampa. And what was the question? Because it ties in. Not passion.
How do you not psych yourself out?
So psych yourself out. So I think it's, I like pressure. So a pro who was looking at, while I was here in Maine, was looking at Sergio, said, this guy's never, ever going to be ready for the show. I'm telling you right now, it's a good idea for him to pull out of the show. And I took that as a challenge big time. And I asked, is he round? He said, no. Is he lean? He said, not at all. And I said, don't worry, Sergio. We got 14 days. Miracles can happen. And I'll come down like 5 days from the show. And every single, rapid trick I know, we'll try. And he ended up second. He looked tremendous. If Alexis Ferlone didn't show up, he would have won, obviously. And, he pushed him right to the end. So, people cave under pressure, including bodybuilders.
You thrive on it.
Yeah, I thrive. I don't know why I thrive, but I like pressure. I like seeing a bodybuilder being the underdog. I can't tell you how many people have been fat as pigs 7 weeks ago and say, we don't have to worry too much. It's 49 days, if you're in Winnipeg, the difference between September 1st and November 1st, the weather is radically different, right? In those 49 days, whatever it is, 60 days. So, your body can make a lot of changes in 7 weeks if you know how to push it.
So I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to let Steve jump in. So, you've been prepping people for about 30 years. What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make time and time again?
It's a combo of like 5 things that people generally will over diet, but at the same time, they'll diet too hard, but at the same time, they don't know when to diet hard and when to let up. So that's a mistake they make, because they end up over dieting, or they do over cardio, and they have a fear more than anything else of not doing that. You know what I mean? Because there's an underlying insecurity of, I won't be ready, so they gas it too hard. That's a big mistake. But the weird flip side is sometimes people are afraid, again, fear, to eat more when that body type needs to eat more. I mean, some people can eat more and get in good shape, and some people have to really hit it hard to get in good shape. So those things, and I think probably not knowing the balance between, hard dieting and easy dieting and too much cardio and not enough cardio. I mean, it's hard to put your finger on one thing, or even 5 things. I think that it's getting ready for a contest is an ongoing process. And what I always tell people is, which is true, I don't really do diets. Like, people get mad at me because they don't know. I mean, I have it written down, but I'm not aware all the time of what exactly they're doing, because I'm more in tune with, where their body was last week versus this week. And, a lot of the stuff that I do is just instinctual, or by, I've been doing it for so long that the whole process is me listening to their body and trying to work with their body, rather than me trying to force it from point A to point Z, from point even A to point B. I try not to force things.
the
Yeah.
fear aspect you mentioned, do you think that's part of the reason why people are using such absurd dosages of drugs nowadays? They think, well, if that guy's running 5 grams, I have to run 6
Well,
grams.
it's all fear. It's all the unknown. You know, I mean, people use a lot of stuff because they think that, you know, so and so is using a lot of stuff, or they hear that so and so is using a lot of stuff, or they, you know, I mean, people generally use too much out of fear that, you know, that they're not using enough. It's ridiculous, but I mean, they fear they're not using enough. And I always tell people, you know, more is better unless it's not. You know what I mean? If you're using more, you know, if you keep using more and keep getting better and better and better, then more is better. But I mean, there comes a point where you're using more and you're just looking worse or looking the same. So more can't be better by definition. You know, otherwise it'd be more. There's got to be some type of sweet spot, and you know, it's hard to find out. I mean, if you can find the sweet spot, you know, where you know, what amount of anabolics work, for example, then you know, then your body's going to change. It's kind of like the sweet spot in the diet. You know, if you could find some type of parameter of like not too strict, not too easy, some type of middle way that actually works. That's usually the best spot to be in terms of, you know, calories, carbs, this type of thing.
I can tell why you call yourself a technician, because this seems, you know, very specific. Who would you say in all your years did you look at and you're like, wow, this person has the most amazing genetics, bodybuilding genetics? Like, who would you say?
There's just so many people that I've worked with unbelievable.
Do you think they're all kind of the same on the same level?
No,
or do you
I
think
think
one person was like, wow, like above and beyond?
I mean, like clearly, like, you know, Ramy and Jay have the best genetics that I've, you know, seen. I don't know, maybe, you know, I mean, you have to couple Jay with his mental toughness, you know, or just, you know, I mean, it's great to have great genetics, but, you know, you have to have the killer instinct too. And of course, Ramy has a killer instinct as well. But I mean, I would definitely just say, you know, Jay would be up there as, you know, number one in terms of killer instinct, even though, you know, speaking with him, people wouldn't be able to read him that way. But, you know, in terms of what he wants to get accomplished, you know, it's genetics with mental drive.
Well, he surely accomplished a lot, winning all those Mr. Olympia. So he definitely got to have something, you know, besides genetics.
Let me jump in here quick. I got a question when it comes to genetics, because people always want to know, do I have good genetics? Do I have average genetics? Do I have bad genetics? When you're working with these genetically gifted individuals, when you say good genetics, does that just mean they've got perfect muscle insertions, things like that? Or are they hyper responded drugs? What is good genetics?
I mean, what is good genetics? I mean, good genetics. I mean, you could say, you know, Henry Pierre Ano is, you know, the best genetics for classic physique because he's got pure classic lines. You know what I mean? So structurally, he's got perfect genetics. You know, or Rodin has structurally, you know, great genetics. Or Eduardo Correa has genetics to get leaner without shrinking than other people. So, I mean, people have their own attributes. You know, Ramy obviously has genetics to get, you know, to add a lot of size. You know, I usually never even entertain the idea of genetics, just because then you start to get into like, you know, assumptions like, well, maybe this guy won't have to diet so hard. A lot of people with great genetics, they might have great genetics, but, you know, but it could fool you into thinking that you don't have to push them as hard, or they don't have to push themselves as hard. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Steve?
It does. I mean, we see it in professional sports all the time. How many people do we see that are gifted athletes in college, and then they make it to the pros and they want to party all the time and they don't have their head on straight and they don't accomplish a damn thing. So
yeah.
It's like anything. So that makes sense.
Paul Dillette might have had the best genetics, actually. He might have had better genetics than Ramy and Jay. You know, I worked with him when he won the North America. He came to stay at my house for like a few weeks. And he didn't, you know, he looked great for that show, and he looked great for several shows as a pro, but I wouldn't say that he had to actually train hard. But he would disagree and say I was training, you know, he might be right. I was training actually listening to my body. So, maybe, somebody pushing him too hard in the gym would backfire for him. I'm sure 100% he would say that, because he didn't train. I wouldn't consider his training hard. He might consider it hard. And he might consider that actually in retrospect the best way for him and why he got to where he got to. But in terms of just pure genetics, ability to grow, stay lean, crazy insertion shape, without a doubt, Gillette.
So switching gears a bit to the Mr. Olympia, the $1 million question is, who is going to eventually dethrone Phil Heath? What's your opinion?
You know, I wouldn't take I'm not sure, because, Jay got second to last at his Olympia, and Coleman got second to last or third to last or fifth to last at his first Olympia. And as Jay would say, it's always someone who's least expected to do that. Outside of Phil. So, if you had people at, the first couple Olympias or 3 Olympias Coleman did, if someone would say, oh, this guy's the next Mr. Olympia, people would laugh at him. And that's a fact. They would, because if they were following the sport around those times, he was not, a prime threat. And Jay was never a prime threat, his first 2 or 3 Olympias. Let's see, 2 Olympias, 3 Olympias. So it's probably going to be somebody that we don't expect. I believe that. It's not going to be some amateur. It's going to be someone who's just going to take a big leapfrog.
That's good though. That might be good for things. Get a little action in there. It gives us something to talk about ahead of time.
Chris, what are your thoughts on the new divisions? What are your thoughts on men's physique and classic physique? Do you like them, or are you a bodybuilder fan first and foremost?
I'm a bodybuilding fan, so I prep like classic guys, but I don't prep any physique guys, just because. A lot of guys haven't approached me to prep them. A few have, and then. I come from a bodybuilding background, so my, goes back to like your interest. My interest is still in, people email me all the time. I say classic or open, and they say physique, and I just say, I'm not prepping physique guys. I don't even look at the pictures, But in terms of, it's a ridiculously growing category. So is classic. And the day they started classic, I said, well, that's the end to bodybuilding. So, and I believe that as well.
What about females? Why don't you work with females?
I worked with one female in the last 20 years, and she won the world championships last year. Helly, I can't remember Helly's last name. She won the Rising Phoenix. She won the $50,000 in the truck last year.
Let's hope she doesn't watch the show. She'll be pissed.
Yeah, well, I kind of let her down this year. I've always had a policy. I don't work with females, always. And she bothered me for like 2 years. And then I just felt like totally up to the challenge of, let me see what I can do with her. And she was like ridiculous at that show last year. She was like template. She was phenomenal, peeled, full, round. She only won by a point, but so it's not like she blasted the field, but she was tremendous last year.
What are your thoughts on the female divisions? Female physique, female bikini, female figure.
I don't like any of them.
Are you upset that they got rid of women's bodybuilding, or do you think it was kind of a necessary decision?
I don't think it was a necessary decision. I think that they just go by, what's popular, and clearly female bodybuilding is nowhere near as popular as it used to be. Gave way to other divisions, and it gave way to other opportunities for women to compete in different divisions. But I don't follow it, because to me the bikini, they all look alike. I'm sure there's distinctions, but I just I don't follow it. And the other classes, like the routines, the one with the routine, what is that class? That's figure.
Fitness.
I'm entertained by the routines, but it's like, how do you weigh the routine versus the body? And so I'm not really interested in that one. What other divisions are there, female?
Right now there's bikini, figure, fitness, and physique.
Yeah.
Physique is basically like the new women's bodybuilding.
Yeah. I mean, the top three in the physique I'm interested in because they're just insane. I forget who the top three are. Candace, they're the girl, the
Candace is figured.
figure. Well, she's freaky. I like her. Who's in figure the top three?
Honestly, man, I'm like you. I don't really follow the women.
But they're insane, whoever they are. Their V tapers are crazy. Talk about genetics. Sydney, the girl Sydney, I forget her last name, and I follow a little bit the fitness queen. What's her name? The girl with the crazy Linda Murray shape.
I can't tell you.
I mean,
man.
there's a few out there who are just insane. You know,
we sound super gay that we can list off male bodybuilders' names like there's no tomorrow, but we can't even list the Miss Olympia.
Well, it's not super gay. It's what we came from. You know what I mean? It's like we're lifting weights to get big and hard, you know? So that's our interest. You know, I wasn't, drawn into bodybuilding because I went to a bikini contest. I mean, you'd get drawn into like finding a girlfriend, I think, if you went to bikini contest today, that's for damn sure. Or like, even a figure or whatever it is, bodybuilding. But in terms of everlasting, passion, it's going to be what you really got involved in the sport with for the first place, which is to build muscle, look big, look hard. So, I'm none of those, but I'm still surrounding myself with, bodybuilders who are doing what I used to love to do.
So another question I have for you is, where did this whole pre-workout muffin thing come from? Do you just have like company stocks?
No, it just came from like, I'm lazy, and I used to do bagels with people, like have a bagel. That was like with Jay way back. And then like, I'd bring people's like trying to come up with like a carb source. I used to do like cream of rice, cream of wheat with a little jam. And then I said, you know what, how about just like a muffin? It's easy. I can write it down as a muffin, and then people took it as some like special, must have pre-training thing. And then like Reagan Grimes started doing it, and Reagan I think was the first one who called it a muffin pump. And then that's all people do is tag me all day long, muffin pump, muffin pump, muffin pump.
It's like a trending topic on social media.
It's ridiculous.
Now. People think like the two secrets to a good contest prep is DNP and muffins.
Yeah, well, I call them the DNP muffins sometimes when I'm just kidding. That's where it came from. It just came from like I pulled it out of my hat, like I mean, a lot of it came sushi. I don't know anyone who ate sushi before. Like they probably did, but that was like a cheat meal sushi, and then like burgers, on a cheat meal once in a while. And then now I was like, I get like zillions emails about burgers and sushi and muffins and burgers and sushi and muffins. Meanwhile, I got someone eating like, like a bird getting ready for the Olympia. No burgers, no muffins, no sushi. So, I don't know. You know how it is. People just look for some trendy little weird thing and think that, you got to have a muffin pre-training.
You've worked with a lot of really, really good bodybuilders. Do you have a favorite out of everyone you've worked with?
No, I have lots of favorites. I get along very well with Jay Cutler. I get along very well with Cedric McMillan. I get very well with Sergio Oliva, even though everyone else hates him. I get along very well with Sean Roden, Eduardo Correa, Guy Sistinino, Jose Raymond. I would consider those people, even though I don't see them, friends of mine, Troy Alves, even Remy I get along very well with. So, usually the people I help, I get along with really well. I like to think that, I get along with them well because I admire their hard work, and they probably appreciate well, the help that I give them, and maybe my odd sense of humor. So, there's very few people I've worked with on a detailed level that I don't get along with.
Well, after this episode, I'm going to send you a fanny pack for my clothing line for coming up.
Let's hope. Let me make sure there's not a tariff on it. Sending it from Winnipeg. Trump may increase the price. I may have to pay a tariff when it gets to my house.
A $20 fanny pack with $50 custom.
Yeah, exactly. That's U.S., not loony.
That happened to me. I had a client in Florida they were taking this pre-workout. They're like, hey, I love this pre-workout. I bought a tub and I'm going to mail it to you. I was like, sure, that's unnecessary, but if you want to do that, that's really kind. Customs tried to ding me $79 in importation fees for a $30 pre-workout.
Yeah, exactly. It's insane.
Like, that's Canada for you. The polar bears run our postal service. No. Steve, all those bodybuilders Chris was talking about, do you even know who those are?
I know a few. I'm not a big bodybuilding fan. Trevor is a huge bodybuilding fan. He said of all the guests he comes on, you were the one that he wanted to get on. So he's really excited about this.
Trevor, my prep list is infinitesimally long.
What do you mean by that?
It just there's a ton of people I've helped. I mean, Helly, you asked me if I help women. I said I only helped one in 20 years. She won the world championships last year. She's by far her best ever by a mile. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of people I've helped. So Steve will know none of them.
So Cedric,
you will know him.
For example, like I love Cedric's physique, and I think he could easily be the next Mr. Olympia.
Who?
Why? Like, what's going on with him? Like, why is it one show he's amazing and he's beating Kai Green, and the next show it's a total flop?
I don't know, really. You know, I think there's probably stressors, outside stressors that affect his physique. I mean, he's been remarkably consistent at the Arnold. And
do you think that's because he knows Arnold likes him, so it's no pressure?
I mean, it could be. It could be, you know. And then he'll, do a small show like in Toronto and not look his best, or, he struggled at like remarkably hard at the Olympia, which I think is really probably boils down to some large degree pressure.
Do you think it might be having kids? Because I got to imagine that's got to be tough because he's got like.
Well, what Sergio Oliva said there's never been a Mr. Olympia outside Lee Haney with kids. And, having kids, I have 3 kids. So,
is that why you stopped competing? You had 3 kids and you said,
no,
I'm not going to be Mr. Olympia?
No, I wanted to have a real life other than, chicken breast.
You can also have egg whites. Don't forget that.
It's difficult to do anything with kids. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just a big time constraint. And bodybuilding is a very selfish sport. And, you do have to be selfish. And Cedric has a lot of kids, and there are a lot of little kids. I'm sure that, it's not like he can just say, I'm going to, spend the afternoon eating chicken and watching TV. You got 5 kids that are running around.
Do you miss training, though? Like, do you miss getting a pump?
Not at all, no.
Really?
No, because I'm all or none. The only way I could train is if I was going to say I'm going to do a I just everything I do is pretty much all or none. Yeah, there's no middle way with me. If I'm going to do something, anything, I want to do it right and full blast, all out. I didn't realize that till one day Dave Palumbo and me were walking across a bridge in Miami, and he's asked me that question, or his wife asked me that question a lot, like, how come you don't train like at all? Because Dave was still training at the time. And I was trying to think of it, and it was like boiling out, and I was sweating to death. And Dave says, I know. He said, because Chris can't go 50% in anything. He has to go 100. And I said, that's it. That's it. Right in a nutshell. I wasn't even aware of it.
But you still eat healthy, and you still, are in, good shape.
I eat pretty much healthy, yeah.
You don't look like a slob or anything. Like, do you notice like your body feels a lot better without the grind of weight training now? Because I'm almost 40, and I'll be honest with you, the past few years, my body just is definitely breaking down. It's almost like it's breaking down quite a bit. So I wonder if I took like an extended time away, if that would be a benefit.
Well, the other part for me is I had a bout with cancer a long time ago. And ever since then, every time I try to get onto this streak of getting some workouts in, it's like things get going good, and I'm not training hard, but it's like, wow, this time I'm going to like really be able to get in shape, and I got a great pump, and I feel great. And then my body just like falls apart. I have like this immune response where I can't get out of bed for like 2 days, and it scares the hell out of me. And you can't get out of bed for 2 days just because you just ache from head to toe. The next thing you worry about is, well, maybe that's triggering cancer or something. So, it goes back to, I have this idea, like every once in a while I'll get back into training, and then I start to ramp it up a little bit. The minute I ramp it up a little bit, because I hate training like a baby, I just you end up.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. We had Derek Lunsford on a couple episodes ago, and he talked about what you said, that he gives 100%. And I even asked him, and then toward the end, I was like, "Do you have any other hobbies besides bodybuilding?" He's like, "No." He's like, "All I do is bodybuild, eat, sleep," and I guess that's what you need to do. Tell us a little bit about sleep and outside stresses a little more. Is that something like even for like our listeners who are hearing this that can really put a dent in your fitness goals tremendously? Like, are these guys that are pros and Mr. Olympia level, are they all nailing, the outside stresses and
they're stressed out of their mind. Most of these guys are stressed out of their mind because there's so much pressures in bodybuilding.
Okay.
If you talk about the bodybuilders, I always kid, they're stressed out of their mind. Like if a competitor says to me, I'm helping, like I'm worried about this, I said, are you kidding? Steve and Trevor, they're in the show. They're probably stressed out of their mind. They wouldn't tell you, but everyone.
So they're stressed about bodybuilding itself, but what happens if there's outside stresses on top of that?
Compounds, right?
Yeah. So that would be an issue for sure. So what Derek was saying is probably what you need to do to make it to that level.
Live like a monk.
Yeah, pretty much, because I was shocked that, he just says, I just sit home all day. I don't do anything except bodybuild. So I was kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
And he doesn't work or anything. So I found that interesting. But how much sleep do these guys need to be getting?
I mean, I guess it's different from person to person. I'm imagining they're probably, sleeping, right? 8 hours a night plus 2 little naps. I don't know, 2 naps during the day. I never asked anyone I work with, how's your sleep? They only tell me when they can't sleep.
Okay.
Look good. I say, well, you look like you get a lot of sleep.
Okay.
That's a typical me answer. If they say, I get no sleep. I said, what do you mean? Someone just told me this the other day, 2 days ago, who's getting ready for the Olympia. I slept 2 hours last night. I said, well, you look well rested. Just keep going. But if they look like trash, I'd say, why don't you just take a couple days out of the gym?
Okay. That makes sense. So you're very...
That's my weird unorthodox.
Yeah. You're very micro. I can tell you micromanage things with people. You kind of like go by feel, you don't just like say, okay, you got to get this much sleep, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And that's actually really, really good tip. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, a lot of people worry about their sleep, which gives them anxiety as much as, just realizing, okay, I didn't get enough sleep. Let me not even think about it and see how my body responds rather than they're so petrified. I didn't get enough sleep. I'm not going to be able to.
It's kind of like if someone misses a meal and they're stressing out about it, they'll probably be more catabolic from all the stress than actual missing the meal.
Yeah.
So Chris, one question I got for you is, a lot of prep coaches, I'm sure, look up to you because you're known as being one of the best. You are working with so many individuals. You've got a wife, you've got kids, you're in real estate. How do you manage to do it all in a day? Are you just really good with time management? Do you have any
This office behind you is up to your knees in paper. You actually saw it. It's just a mess. Everything is just it's a very busy day. Every day is a busy day. And I like it that way, but also I have the ability to since I don't really worry, I don't worry. Like if someone says, I'm 4 weeks out from the Olympia, I'm not going to be ready. Well, we'll see. I'm not going to I'm not going to worry about it. And if people I'm evicting people like today, when I emailed you, I was evicting 2 people and they're battling me in court. I really not going to worry about it. And I think that probably comes from having survived cancer because it's all no big deal at the end of the day.
So I'm a lot like you in that I like everyday packed. It's like from 10 to 11, I'm doing this. From 11 to 12, I'm doing this. From 12 to 2, I'm doing this. Girls hate me though, because if a girl's like, hey, I want to see you Friday, I'm like, okay, I can schedule in 7 to 9 p.m.
Yeah.
What is how does your wife put up with you?
She don't. She thinks it's all, she thinks the bodybuilding thing is, she knows that I like it, but she thinks it's a little bit on the ludicrous side. But at the same time, I don't let people get me uptight, people I work with. I'm not going to let them project their stress onto me.
You're such a mellow guy, Chris. Is
I'm only
that
mellow on the outside. I mean, I'm very intense. People know me know I'm
okay? But
incredibly.
is that you've always like did the cancer thing kind of make you realize, hey, there's different things in life? Like I shouldn't make all the stress because I'm a very crazy, stressed out person. Like I used to be a landlord, and I was at for 8 years. And the worst thing in the world was getting a call on a Friday night at 6 o'clock when the tenant tells you the air conditioner is broken in the middle of
Yeah.
summer. Because now I'm like, oh my God, now I got to get an AC guy out there over the weekend.
Yeah.
And that's going to cost me a
Oh
fortune.
yeah.
So it's
Insane.
like, that's why I had to get the hell out of that industry. I couldn't take that shit. So, but you seem like such a mellow guy, and it's something that I need to work on because I'm not going to make it much longer on this planet if I don't. So, like, how do you do that? Like, I can tell,
Well,
like, you're just so mellow.
well, you know, you, you have to realize, I realize, you know, I chose these things, and nothing's easy, right? Everything's going to have stress. And I think stress is just really how you react to things rather than how you respond to things. Um, Someone could call me with uh, yesterday with no AC in a building that's 99 degrees. Um, and they're in a short-term rental and they're paying a ton of money. And they called me yesterday morning and you can only put forth your best effort in terms of trying to fix a problem. So, and that's all you can do. The rest is just self-created worry and stress that you bring in upon yourself. I mean, I didn't break the air conditioning. I didn't send someone over there with a hammer to break the air conditioning. Things do break, earthquakes happen, things do go wrong. So, that's part of the process in terms of being a landlord or, in contest prep, you don't always hit it out of the park. Um,
On
so
the topic of landlord, Chris, bed bugs. How do you get rid of them?
you can't, you can't. You can get rid of dinosaurs on Earth. You can't get rid of bed bugs.
One question I have for you, Chris, is how did your friendship with Dave? How did that all start?
Dave was, I met Dave. I always knew of Dave, weird. And he had just started RX Muscle and I'd gone to like a junior national show. And he's like, you want to do the wrap up? And he's like, yeah, I didn't know. It's like, okay, and Trevor was in third place. I said, well, you got a gift. You look like shit. What a total botched judging job. And he's like, holy, he had to like restart the tape because you just can't put that type of stuff on the air because you're going to get everyone hating you. So I put together like a diet version of the contest review. And I run into him at different shows and they'd say, you want to do the wrap up? Or yeah. And I'd say, yeah, I'll do the wrap up. And people love the wrap ups because there'd be a lot of detail. There'd be, a lot of analysis. And so we just, we definitely, meshed, from the get go. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dave Palumbo. I think he's brilliant. He's artistic. He's given incredible amount of people incredible opportunities in terms of with RX Muscle to be broadcaster, just to do behind this, just to do so many different things and paid them well. I would consider him somebody with who has a lot of high moral character and treats people good even when they treat him bad. And he's a professional and he's a family person. So I have no negative to say about Dave. And I do have a lot of negatives to say. I wouldn't say them publicly about other people there, about them. I probably shouldn't say it behind their back either. But if someone said, what do you think of so-and-so? I mean, I've had people call me up and say, we're thinking of signing so-and-so for a supplement contract. What do you think? I said, good luck. Pain in the ass. Or other people that have, called me up. Hi, we own supplement company XYZ. We're thinking of signing, so-and-so. What are you thinking? I'd say, I wholeheartedly, whatever that means, recommend this person and you'll be happy with them and they'll do a great job and you'll have no issues and, they'll work hard for you and all those things. So point being is I don't have a problem talking negatively about someone, but Dave is one of the the better people I know. So I enjoy talking positively about them.
How long do you think you guys are going to do your podcast together?
But people stop listening.
Probably never.
I don't know, because it's remarkable how many people listen to it. It's just absolutely remarkable. It's remarkable in the sense that I'll be at a show and somebody will confront me and get mad at me that I said something about them, or somebody will confront me and say, "Oh, that was great what you said about me," or the number of people. It's bizarre. Like I'll be out somewhere and people say, "Oh, I listened to the radio show." You know, I'll be out with my wife and kids. I'll say, "I listened to the radio show." You know. Monday night, and you said XYZ, and it's like, gosh, how many people listen to the show? You know, people listen to it because they need something to do too during cardio. So it's like everyone downloads it on a Monday and Tuesday to listen to, you know, what we're talking about. Not so much maybe as what we're talking about as, you know, something to listen to make cardio pass. Which might not be the best compliment, just to make time pass, but at least they listen.
You are really the pioneer of, you know, being a prep coach. You and Dave are really the pioneer of podcasts. Like, you guys are doing this podcast before everyone else was. What are your thoughts now about, it seems like everyone with an Instagram account is a prep coach, and it seems like everyone has their own podcast now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone's a prep coach. You know, I was at the Tampa show. I said, I think I did pretty good there. I had the classic winner. The guy got third in the classic. I mean, there are 50 guys. You know, Sergio got second in the open. I didn't have anyone in the 212. But I got on the elevator and there was an old guy there. Looked like my father. Not quite that old. My father's 83, so definitely 73. Looked like a regular guy in Tampa, Florida. I mean, he probably said the same thing about me. And he said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Good." You know, like you get on the elevator with people who are staying in the hotel. So a lot of people say good morning, you know, they're on vacation or whatever. They're happy because they're away from their family. They're just, everyone's in a good mood at a hotel. And he said, "How many people you got in the show?" And I said, 1, 2, 3, 4. He says, "Oh, I got 3. And I was like, the weirdest thing, I'm thinking, oh, this guy's like a, and then he went on to tell me the divisions. And I thought, well, maybe he was a bodybuilder 40 years ago. Who knows, you know? But just the body, the face, the age didn't fit the idea that he's at a bodybuilding show, you know? So
well, that was like that grandma helping Rolly.
Yeah. So, but she competed. So maybe he did years ago. So the point being is that everyone's doing prep these days. And, you know, people send me diets and stuff. And I'm like, I look at a diet, like an email, they'll say, "Oh, you know, can you give me a couple tips?" And sometimes I can't open up everything, but I open up a lot of diets and I say, that looks like something I gave to Jose. You know what I mean? Or that looks like something I gave to Roden, you know, that made its way around somehow. I mean, I guess there's not too many substitutes for chicken and potatoes and rice, but the little weird, little nuanced things that I like to eat, that I give bodybuilders to eat, just because I like them, you know, ends up in diets, cranberries, blueberries, oatmeal with cranberries and blueberries. So many people put that weird little unique combo in, and it shows up over and over. What, a cup of cranberries, half a cup of blueberries, 1 cup of oats, you know.
All your secrets are getting leaked, Chris. You're gonna get
no secrets. I have no secrets.
There's no secret peptide that you only have access to or anything like that?
No, I wish it was. If someone has a secret peptide, send it to me. And
what are your thoughts on all the peptides and SARMs now? What are your thoughts on, you know, all these peptides and SARMs?
I think they sound exotic, so people use them because they sound exotic.
Are they something you put in programs?
Nope. Never use peptides, ever. Never use.
What about SARMs?
Never used them once.
Really?
Never, ever.
Interesting.
Never used Lasix once. Never used Lasix once. Some bodybuilder accused me of using Lasix recently. Never used it once, ever.
So what do you use for diuretics then? Aldactone and diadyes?
You can use diazide, hydrochlorothiazide. I mean, basic stuff that are potassium sparing. Anything that's potassium sparing is, you know, the way to go.
So all of these forum gurus are saying the Chris Aceto secret is these peptides and SARMs and Lasix. It's all wrong.
Yeah, they're completely wrong. They're clueless, actually. Clueless, if that's what they think. Anyone who's worked with me will tell you that there's anyone will tell you, if you say, what did you do for that diet? They'll say, I have no idea. Because a lot of the times the diet changes and it's very unorthodox, and I change it a lot, and they'll try to review the last week, and they'll say, but Wednesday, Chris, you changed your mind completely the last 3 days, and we had technically a plan and you changed it all. So I can't remember what we did. And I said, well, it's better that way. I have, I don't keep anything from previous diets and stuff. I don't have one diet here in my office. Like if, Henry Pierre just won the classic, and I just threw his diet out completely because I said, we're going to start from scratch tomorrow. I'm sure when I write it up, it'll be similar probably in my head to what he was doing before, but that's one thing that's important to understand if you're going to do contest prep, is what works for one person one year might have no effect on their body the following year.
I will say I'm impressed by a couple of things, Chris, what you just said, because I've noticed too, my workouts, even if I go to the gym and I'm working, like doing something, and someone comes up to me and they're like, how many sets you got? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm not trying to be an asshole about it, but I really have no idea. I'm going to listen to my body and let my body decide how many sets I got. And then number two, I think that it's interesting that you didn't come out and bash the young generation and social media for basically every other guy being a fitness, diet coach, because it's like everyone with at least 25,000 followers on YouTube or Instagram, they've got a supplement line, and they do nutrition coaching and weight training coaching and all this stuff. So you're very different than the other guys in that respect. So, I mean, you won a lot of respect with me for that, because
well,
it just
I'll bash
seems
Kenny and George if you want.
It's really interesting because and there's nothing wrong with that. People want to bash the guys, but we've had guests on here, the older guys, they're so upset about the younger generation. And
oh, really?
How they're destroying things and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, aren't you the one that raised them? I mean, technically.
Steve, I hate to break it to you. Chris is more hip than you. Chris is Instagram.
Yeah. I post, I don't follow anyone really, but I post pictures of people I've helped. I usually just post them because it pisses off people who follow them. That's my little, so, I mean, I could care less about posting at all, but I mean, I enjoy it, but I don't follow anyone, and I don't read ever any commentary under a picture that I post. I've never read a commentary. I've posted once to one follow-up, someone who tagged me, and I think Sergio recently tagged me, but he called me that he tagged me. So then I wrote something funny under his, whatever he tagged me on. But I don't, like, if I post a picture of his Trevor, winning the Winnipeg contest, I never look to see if anyone commented on it underneath.
People comment the weirdest stuff, man. I've had people comment on my YouTube videos that, like, my living room decor is ugly. I've had people make fun of my pets, just like the weirdest stuff.
Well, there you go. So I'm ignorance is bliss. I can enjoy Instagram because I never ever, people tell me, oh, my Instagram, this guy on my social media. I said, I can enjoy it. I get to post and just enjoy that I posted it. I don't have to read any back, the only time I get any backtrack or back feed or feedback is if I go to a show, which is not even often much anymore. But people are like, oh, I love that picture you posted of, it was a so-and-so, from the such and such show. There's a crazy picture from the hotel. But I don't read the actual Instagram comments.
Just wait, Chris. After this YouTube video, people are going to be commenting on that. I think it's a mixer in the background in the U-Haul box.
What's that? That's taxes, dude.
Is that red thing? Is that a blender?
No, the red thing is one of my tenants gave it to me as a gift. An 83-year-old guy who lives in a one-bedroom apartment, essentially rent-free, who has no money, and he's old and elderly. He's a wonderful guy, and he gave it to me. Let me see. I think the price tag is on it. It's like a quarter. Hold on. And I was so touched by it. It's probably the second time I ever picked it up. Hold on, I'll tell you the price. $2.99.
Okay, is it a vase? It's a
It's a
glass?
vase that he thought I would enjoy or something, and it's probably been on there for 4 years. It's made in China, so we'll have a tariff on that soon as well.
I can tell your political leanings by the couple of shots, but yeah.
I don't like Ayatollah Trump.
Yeah, I can tell. So you and Dave probably don't get along on that.
I don't know where Dave stands, but I know when Trump started to run, I predicted that he'd win on the show. Way out. Way out. Way out. And Dave laughed, like right when he announced. And then I started talking bad about him. And Dave was like, "You got to stop talking bad." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I'm getting so many hate emails. It's ridiculous." And I said, "Well, read one to me." He wouldn't even read them. They were so bad.
Yeah, I think in this industry, it's dominated by, the middle-aged male. So that's up Trump's demographic. So we're going to lose some listeners. But listen, I'm apolitical, guys. Trevor doesn't even know anything about politics. So don't stop listening to our show on this.
Dude, I'm in Canada. We just say sorry and smile. That's all we do.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Yeah. So, Chris, we're finishing up the show. Is there any golden nuggets you can give to our listeners? We have like 500,000 listeners between our two websites, and we're actually doing a new platform on Elite Fitness as well. So we're excited about that. Is there any tips you can give our listeners, like how they can more maximize their,
wait.
Go
Let me put in a plug for my books, by the way.
Okay.
Yes,
I've never plugged them, but you know what? They're in the room next door. And I personally was just shipping some off to Amazon. And I just realized literally before we went on the air, it's ridiculous the amount of books that there's 2 books, Championship Bodybuilding and Everything You Need to Know About Fat Loss. You get them on Amazon. And it's insane how many I've sold. I wrote them in 96. I wrote them in like a week because I was working for Joe Weider. And he said, I'll give you ad space in a magazine. And I said, for what? He said, you can sell stuff. I said, I don't have anything to sell. He said, why don't you put together a book?
You want to know why this is a special episode for me?
What's that?
When I was 15 years old, the first nutrition book I ever read was your Championship Bodybuilding.
What year was that?
I'm 26 now, so 11.
It's a tremendous read.
It was great. And I still reference it.
Yeah, of course.
I have a master's in nutrition, and I still
Have you read the fat loss book?
No, I didn't. I didn't even know that.
Okay, everything you need to know about fat loss. I was talking about like the stuff I was talking about in 96 was just like that's just me going to school and my own ideas. And I read that book a couple of years ago, and I thought that was groundbreaking. It's groundbreaking.
After this episode, I'm going to go on Amazon, buy that $20 book, and get slammed with $80 of customs fees.
So besides the 500,000 listeners, any nuggets other than buy my books so I don't have to do bodybuilding diets? The nugget is enjoy what you're doing. I was in Tampa, and it's easy for competitors to say they had a great time if they do really well, of course. But we had a blast when I was there. I had an unequivocal blast from I got there Tuesday, early, and I was with Sergio the whole time and Henry Pierre the whole time, and I enjoyed it the whole time. I didn't consider it hard. I didn't consider it work. I didn't consider it stressful. I was just down there to, try to help them and have fun. But I told Sergio somewhere when he realized what? He realized he couldn't articulate it. I said, that means you haven't, he tried to say he was having fun. He's like, this is no stress. I can't believe it's so much hard work, but we're just having a good time. I said, yeah, we're having a blast. He said, yeah, we're having a blast. So, if you're doing,
that's great advice. Seriously, because that's great advice right there, because some days I don't even feel like lifting. So, the fact that you just said that makes me want to just appreciate, what I have. So that's a really good tip.
So Chris, we're at the end of our episode. So many people thank you. You know, everyone says, oh, I thank you, Chris Aceto, for helping with my contest prep, everything like that. This is your chance now. If there's any thank yous you want to say, I mean, you've been in this industry for a very long time. Is there anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, I would. The two people I have to, if for what I'm doing, I guess I would have to thank Bob Gruskin, who coached me when I was a teenager. And besides coaching me, he instilled in me to a large degree, how to be a responsible person. Second to that, I would, thank Dave Palumbo for his friendship and just everything he's done for me and other people. And but on the top, of course, my wife, because this takes a lot of time. And, in the last 9 years, I've traveled a lot and been away from the house, and, and she supports me, even though, she doesn't have to support me. And she does. And, she does that only because she knows I enjoy it. So it could be any activity, I could shooting rifles or surfing waves. And if it took me away same amount of time, she would support me on it because she knows it's something that I love.
Do you think your wife would want a fanny pack?
My kids would, for sure.
How many? You have 3?
14, 13, and 4. So the 4-year-old may like it as well, but I don't know if you make them that small.
They're adjustable. I'll send 5, one for the whole family, and you can take a group photo for me.
Yeah. Now you're trying to advertise. You're going to post it up and say, "See, Chris wears it."
No, I actually
$71 tariff and $200 in border fees, and
I have no time. I have hundreds of items in my clothing line. I took the website down. I just have no time to market it.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's just trying to get rid of them. It sounds like, right, Trevor?
Honestly, right now, all I do is I just give them out to my clients and things like that. I give them out to people at church.
Well, you gotta send me the link to when this is up, simply because I don't follow anything bodybuilding. Like, people, did you see YouTube? No. Did you see this? No. Did you see that? No. The only thing I see is if someone sends me something.
I'll send it to you.
Ever go to YouTube and ever, or Facebook ever, and look like something bodybuilding. But it gives me a much clearer head to enjoy what I'm doing. I think if I went to Facebook and Instagram and blah, 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 my head would be in turmoil. So I realized if I stay away from that stuff, like the social media aspect, and which can be the drama of it, then I can concentrate on what I'm doing and enjoy it.
I love your message, Chris. For your host, Trevor Kouritzin, for my co-host, Steve Smee, and for our special guest, Chris Aceto, a.k.a. The Real Technician, it's been another episode of Evolutionary Radio. Live your life. Look good doing it. Thanks for listening.